Alright everybody, I swear I already shot this, but maybe I shot it with a dead camera. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to work on something on this today. Turned out it's not really that bad, but it was kind of cool. Supposed to be the nicest day today, and it's windy, so but it's too cool to put any primer on this if I blast that. So I'm gonna want to blast this. This is where I wish I had one of the rattle cans of epoxy primer, because this is a hassle. I may do, I've got some rattle cans of self-etch, so I may blast that and just self-etch primer it. I don't know. So anyway, my stud gun's on the way, and I've actually never used one. But here's my issue. It's this body line right here, basically, and welded them. The inner fenders are the originals. The outers are a set of boat fenders that are cut in half, or maybe not quite half. And then the face of them is a piece of really, really thick metal that's inside of here. And I think when I welded that on, I sucked this back more than I intended. Now, I welded those on there, the car was flipped up on its side. But anyway, got the straight edge here. This yardstick, so it's yardstick, so it's 3 foot long. And you can see it's actually, if you slide it this way, let's see if I get this camera and show this. It's touching pretty good at that end. And you come down there about 13, 14 inches from where I've got that held, and you'll see that it starts to bow back right over the wheel well. If I get that on there decent with one hand. And it's a, I don't know, pretty good gap in there. Not a half inch, but it's at least a quarter of an inch. And it's about, I don't know, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 12 inches, give or take. So, this is my thoughts. Again, I got the stud gun on when I want to ask now. I haven't got it yet. It should be here soon. I ordered it because I don't go anywhere anymore. But just go ahead and take the paint off this body line right here and weld several studs along this body line, starting a little bit past where it's starting to bow back, all along there. Good, 12, 14 inches of them, and slowly pull that out with a slide hammer. Just a little at a time, just keep moving from stud to stud until I get it pulled out where it's at least closer. I mean, there may still have to be a little bit of, there's going to have to be some filler there anyway because of this weld, but I don't want very much. I don't want a 1/4 inch of filler there. I don't even want an 1/8 inch. Just want a real thin coating to cover this weld. So that's my plans. You guys tell me if that's a bad plan. I don't know. Let's see if I can hold this up here a little better so you can see that it's... Now there may be a little bow to the body of the car. I don't know. That's the maybe natural bow. It may not be just string straight. But I know it... I mean, I'm actually okay with it back here where that body line's dropping and it's rolling under the car. And if you can see it, it's fairly flat. It's even fairly flat here. The only place that I really have that issue is right there. And it's right dead over the skinny part of the wheel well. And so I figured if I did it in little bitty pieces, I wouldn't make I don't want to end up with a snake with that. And again, I don't mind using a little bit of filler to bring it back up totally true. And but like I said, there's going to be some anyway, has to be feathered in to feather this in. And this is where I'm going to blast it. I don't know when that's going to happen. This was probably my best day. If it wasn't so windy, I would have tried it. And it's kind of, like I say, it's kind of cold. And if you guys think I can just use self-etch on that and then go over it with epoxy, or should I not do that? I don't know. And better off having epoxy right on the metal. But this is all just surface rust here, but I'm going to blast all this and all of this. This is where I welded it. This is all welded right here. Of course, it's welded up there and then comes up here. And then, of course, obviously you can see those. And it's actually welded here, too. Remember, I told you this is a piece of 18 gauge. This lip, I just cut it out of a piece of 18 gauge and welded it. If you saw my little post, it's obviously not a movie, but post on the forum, I laid this on top of the rusty part and welded it here all along this edge, and then I flipped it over. I had this off, remember, this is off the parts car, so it was loose. I flipped over and took the angle grinder and cut the rust off right along this edge here, and then welded it on the back side. So it's welded on both sides, this piece. Actually, to me, it actually looks like a fairly good job, but who am I to say? I'm not an expert. And of course, obviously, these are butt welded, and they're not the prettiest in the world, but I think they'll be all right. They're solid. This is the good fender. This is the one where I didn't crack the weld at the bottom here. It's a combination on the other side of cracking the weld. I had to jack that out. So like I say, there wasn't enough bow in this piece here, and I ended up taking a bottle jack, setting it on the frame and against the back of this, which is that real thick metal, and it actually against a long piece of 2x4, and I jacked it out. And I didn't have to do it much on this side. I did a little bit. I had to do quite a bit on the other side. When I did it, cracked that weld at the bottom. And so I'm going to just, instead of re-welding it, that's what I'm talking about. I've got some of that 3M panel adhesive, the good stuff that everybody recommends. I'm going to just glue that back on, and I don't have to on this side. It's attached, just on the other side. But the other side suffers the same thing as this one, where it's bowed back right here. But again, my question revolves around just, is it a good idea to go right just, I guess, below that body line? I don't know, and weld, or just right up to it, and weld a bunch of studs down that. I don't know how far apart, 3 inches or so, maybe closer. I don't know. Hopefully some of you guys who are a little smarter on bodywork than me, this is stuff. As I said, my dad owned a body shop, so I was around the body shop all the way until he sold it when I think I was a junior or a senior in high school, and for health reasons. But that was in 1979, so the things have changed a little, obviously. Never heard of epoxy primer in 1979. I think that's something that's new. But like I say, this may get self-etch. I don't know, because I got rattle cans of self-etch, and I may order some of that 2K epoxy primer in can. Try to do enough work to use a whole can up at a time, because it's kind of pricey, and I don't think it has much shelf life after you mix it. So, but it would really be convenient here, not have to get the epoxy out and the gun and then have to clean everything just to do these 2 little spots on both sides, and any other little spots I might need to do on the car. So I've got all this I want to get the welds blasted on. All of these. Of course, these will get a skim coat of Bondo. I have no idea that I'm not gonna have Bondo on this car. I am, but this is all solid now, so not rust anymore. So that makes me feel good. But it's not the prettiest thing right now, but I think it'll look all right when I'm done. I've got a few bobbles. I think there's a bobble. Well, you can see right there, probably where I had a C-clamp on there. Guessing. A little Bondo will take care of that. Or I could weld a stud right there and pop that out. I would show. Let me show you guys this other dent I've talked about off and on, and it's not even hardly worth mentioning. But this car is really straight as far as being dented. It doesn't really have any. I can't say that for the trunk. I don't know. there's probably, the trunk and the roof probably both have some hail dents. But back in 1964, even though they were cheap cars, they a lot more metal on them than there was in '74. I can tell you that. But and later, and it's been hailed on a few times, and it really doesn't have any hail dents on it. I have a few dents in the stainless steel that goes around the windshield and stuff. I've got to have to fix, but the body's not too bad, and I don't have any like major, crash. It's never been wrecked, so there's no big dents on it. There's no surprises. Obviously, since I've owned the car for 40 years, I kind of know its history. It's 15 years old when I bought it. It's a little shame 15 years old. This rust was there at 15, and but of course it probably never gotten taken care of, and mostly, and of course I live in the country, and it was probably lived its life in the country as well. The worst rust was the inner fender well on this side. The inner one's all right, but this inner fender well, it's a lot of words to say, was rusted out. It was really rusted out right here in the front, and that's when I was a kid driving down the dirt roads. Inside the car would get dusty, and it was where dust was coming in, that big hole that was right there. And I just took some fiberglass cloth and undercoating. I just sprayed that undercoating on the fiberglass cloth I had on there and glued it on there, and it was still on there. I don't know if it helped the car or hurt the car. I don't think it hurt it any, but it was still on there when I started working on this 2.5 years ago. I peeled it off of there, but I was going to cut all the rust. That's all gone now, so that was the worst rust on this car, and may have contributed some to some of the rust that ended up in here that I don't know was originally there, and I probably could have avoided that by getting that all cleaned out really good, but you don't think about those kind of things. But this is actually a fairly easy fix. I could have cut this all the way up here and replaced that whole piece with just a piece of basically flat metal that had a bow to it, but I tried to replace as little as possible. Again, I know that it made an awful lot of seams in it by not having a full quarter to put on it, but you do what you can do. I mean, as you can see right here, this is the original car. This is right here, and I only had rust down here in this part, and same here. This was rusted, but luckily this is a parts car, and it was not rusted there, but it was horribly rusted back here. That's why this patch here is what it is, because both of them were rusted right there, and so I had to make this patch. And anyway, let me show you that other dent. I don't want this video to be too long, because it'll take me days and days to upload it. I don't know if you guys can see this, the dent right here in the B pillar, and there's really no way to get to it from behind unless you want to drill a hole. So I figured, I'm gonna have a stud gun on the way. I was just gonna fill it because it's not really very deep. I don't even know if you can see it. You can see where I was rubbing my finger right there. It's really, really small, and so I figured I'd just blow the stud right in the middle of it, pop it out, and get it a little thinner before I fill over it. But and the only dent, the other dent on this car was in the rocker panel. And I think you guys, if you followed my thread, you saw the dent in there, and I ended up cutting it out. It was so bad. I drilled holes inside the car here. I don't know if you can. I think that was on this side. I don't even remember. Yeah. It was down. So I just put a rubber plug in the hole. I stuck a punch in there and wailed away up with the hammer and tried to punch that back out. It was right down here, and you can see where I marked where it was, the limitations of it. And there's a hole there, and there's another hole down back here. It's got a plug in it. I didn't patch them, I just plugged them. And I couldn't get that to hammer out of there. So I finally just zipped her out of there and welded a piece in. I don't know if it's a bad idea, because it's galvanized, but that's what I did. And it looks actually fairly good now. I don't know, it's right there somewhere. I don't even think I put any filler on it. I just welded a patch in there. But it looks pretty good. That's like my cover. That's what I posted on the forum there. I bought that thing, paid $10 for it. It was in the clearance section of Walmart. It said on it, if it's a Mercury Comet. Well, I don't think there's another car called a Mercury Comet, but as you can see, I've got it over the carburetor, hooked on the carburetor. Actually, it's a cheapy cover. It's kind of nice. It'd be nice if you had it parked inside. You wouldn't want to probably have it parked outside with it. But I keep having, of course, my open shed here. I keep having rain and snow blow in here. So I put this plastic over these holes and just close the trunk on it. And then I thought I'd throw this over it. Maybe kind of keep the water out inside the car. Well, I got some electrical stuff back here, you know, and I don't want it all wet. So it covers the roof area. Anyway, I think it's supposed to cover the whole car, but it doesn't. But anyway, now one last thing. You guys probably say, well, how come you're not working on the intake? You should be working on the intake right now. Okay, well, I should be, but I need some boards. I need some. I'm going to build those flasks out of deck boards, I decided. I don't have enough, and I haven't been anywhere to get any, so I need to make a trip out and get stuff. I kind of hermit up here on the hill, so the car is great, though. It's running great. That's driving fine, at least down the mailbox, but it starts. I love it. It starts coldest days, it'll start up, and so I love being able to just jump in it, start it, back it out, do whatever I want to do in here, and then drive it back in. It starts, brakes work, clutch works, everything works, and so it makes me happy after 20 some years of it just sitting out there. And I've been trying to get it started. I started it yesterday and let it run until it got warmed up and blew the moisture out of the pipes. I try to keep the pipes blown out, I don't know, every 3 or 4 days or more often. Because I like to sit there and have it running. But but it just starts like a champ, being an old carbureted car. Middle of winter. I don't even think my choke's working that well. But I have to sit there and warm it up for, I don't know, 10 minutes. And then it sits there and idles just fine. And so I'm pretty happy with it. Hoping this carburetor will make a difference too. Carburetor set. So I really like to, this is probably not even going to make it on the video because it get too long. You see how tall that is? That's too tall. I couldn't get the hood on the car if I wanted to. And those others will be shorter, so they'll set down lower. But if I could afford it, I'd cast some little pieces for the intake to run side drafts on there. I'd love to have side drafts on there so they'd be way down there. But they'd be sitting right over the header too, so I don't know if that'd be good or bad. So, but 3 Webers on there would be pretty nifty. 3 little Weber side draft carburetors. Or 6 motorcycle carburetors. That's always kind of intrigued me. You may see that one of these days. But I want to get this other one on there first. But I've always been intrigued by the little, I don't even know how you say it, Klein, one single carbs off of, I don't know if Honda's had them on there, what they were on. But you just would space 6 of them across there. 2 and 2 and 2 is how I do it. Make a little adapter that can just bolt to my one I'm casting. So once I get it cast and put on there, I can do some swapping and changing around, whatever I want to do. So anyway, like I say, this probably won't even be on there. But again, car's running good. It's smooth. And I haven't had a chance to burn the tires off on the back and the new ones, so they still have the tags on them, but they're holding air, so I did okay on my tire change. And I ran my blinkers yesterday just to make sure my sequencers are still working. I hadn't run them forever. And the headlights are working pretty good. The LED kind of combo ones I built, so they were, like I say, this is a collagen casing, and I put LED bulbs in there. And they seem to hold up. They're kind of funky when sitting outside. The headlights are yellow because there's a yellow thing on those bulbs in there. But I still haven't switched them yet. I saw the crooked one. I know you guys probably think I'm OCD on that, and I am a little bit. The last far outside one right there is crooked. Now all these headlight casings are the same. They're not any different. So anyway, anyhow, I will. Hopefully you guys have some suggestions on that deal, and I will talk to everybody later.